22 minutes. California, you get 22 years minimum if you receive the death penalty as a verdict. A judge now has refused to dismiss an ACLU lawsuit challenging some of the state's new rules on executions, including procedures for determining whether a condemned inmate is sane enough to be executed. All of this, of course, comes after the passage of Prop 66 in a blue wave election. The one standout was, guess what? Even liberal voters in California like the death penalty, and they wanted to see it get along, doggy. Joining us to talk about this is the president of the Association of Los Angeles Deputy District Attorneys, Michele Hanisee. Michele, how are you?
I'm good. Good morning.
Welcome aboard. So, not surprising, the will of the people being challenged in court, and that is part of our system, of course. You can file legal challenges. Just because we vote on things doesn't necessarily make it legal. But what is interesting is watching the giant step to the left the state is taking. Even Dianne Feinstein, who was challenged by Kevin De Leon and by Gavin Newsom, in essence, taking the state farther to the left, she's saying she dropped her support for the death penalty, which puts her out of sync with the vast majority of California voters.
Well, it does. The voters have repeatedly voted every time they've been given the opportunity to preserve the death penalty again and again and again, and they've rejected options to get rid of the death penalty. So this is what the voters want. And last time I checked, I thought we were a democracy.
Well, yeah, we're a democracy. Again, we're a republic, we're a democracy, we're a lot of things. We're
a representative republic.
We are confused on this issue. Well, we're not confused on this issue. The people have consistently supported the death penalty in the state of California, but the leadership hasn't, and that's where we're at today.
Right. Well, remember, the ACLU doesn't actually care whether the individual is sane enough or what they get for their last meal or what time of day the minister comes to the cell. It's, again, all just an end run to prevent the death penalty, which is their real agenda.
Yes, and it's always been fascinating to watch how this strategy is played out, because they have thrown in every legal impediment imaginable, and then they use the fact that the death penalty is expensive and because it takes so long as another reason to get rid of it, when they're the ones who have made it expensive and have dragged it out for years.
Yeah, and they don't see this as irony as the rest of us do. They've accomplished their goal. In all fairness to them, they have been successful for the last 12 years.
So the lawsuit sponsored Prop 66 argued for dismissal of the suit and said it was already causing delay in plans to resume executions. California has not conducted an execution since 2006 and has nearly 750 inmates on death row, of which more than 20 have lost their final appeals. But that doesn't mean that they're actually going to be executed.
Well, the ACLU had to file a new lawsuit because after years of litigation and writing ballot initiatives, all of their prior lawsuits and arguments had been defeated. And the Proposition 66, which the voters enacted, said the execution protocol is not subject to this public vetting process under the Administrative Procedures Act. And you have to understand, the execution protocol has always been this 50, 60-long-page document. It's the soup-to-nuts recipe for what to do if we're going to execute someone, including, are they sane enough? Do we need to move them to a secure cell? What is their last meal going to be? Do we give them a minister? Everything step by step. Now the ACLU is saying, whoa. All that stuff, that's not exempt from the public commentary process. Only the specific part about how you kill them. And you're like, this was never an issue for you before. Why is it an issue now? Oh, yeah, you don't really care about these things. It's just another delay tactic.
It's the issue that's available to them to throw a monkey wrench into the works. Do you expect the courts to rule in favor of Prop 66?
I would think that they would, because traditionally, as I said, the protocol, what the state calls the regulation for execution, used to be OP 770, has included soup to nuts, all of the steps in the process. So when the law says that thing that you have done before is exempt from this public commentary, why should the court now narrow that to say, no, only the part about physically how you killed them? Why should the regulation now be pared down to that one tiny portion?
The expense of keeping somebody in the California prison system is what should it should be a major issue in the campaign. We're now spending over $70,000 a year to keep somebody locked up in the California State Penitentiary. It would be cheaper, literally cheaper, to send them to Stanford or Harvard University than keep them for a year in the California prison system. And it's extra special expensive to keep somebody on death row. I don't know why this outrage continues year after year after year when the federal government does it cheaper. The federal government does it cheaper. So, that's a sidebar issue, and it seems like if we could address that issue, we might be able to eliminate at least one of the irritants on this issue of the death penalty.
Well, we could. And Prop 66 did a little bit to ease some of the cost issues because the Department of Corrections is now allowed to house condemned inmates anywhere in the state that they deem appropriate instead of just at San Quentin. San Quentin is beautiful but archaic and expensive. That's some spendy real estate up there, and they can house inmates cheaper elsewhere. But the remarkable thing is the state released all these inmates from prison, the, quote, nonviolent offenders under Prop 57, they said to reduce prison spending. So they released all these people. They reduced the prison population, but spending hasn't gone down.
All right. Well, listen, Michele, we'll continue to follow it. She is the president of the Association of Los Angeles Deputy District Attorneys. You can follow on Twitter at LA County ADDA, Associate Deputy District Attorneys, ADDA. Michele, thanks so much. Always appreciate your time.
My pleasure.